Welcome to Cup Check, the best sports show in the world, obviously. Say that every time, because it's true. On WODU, the best in college radio. Again, it's just me, Alex, today. Tyler's out of town, so I'll be taking the helm. Gonna do it all by myself. We'll see how it goes. Start off, we got some college football. ODU plays tomorrow, big time, on Fox 1 Sports. First time it's nationally televised. Playing versus Middle Tennessee Friday night. Commuters are the only one that are upset about this because they don't get to park anywhere. But everybody else, they're ready for it. Surprised classes aren't canceled, to just be honest with you. Everything going on. All the teachers are on buzz. All the students. Everybody's just excited about this game. At 1 o'clock, all the parking lots are closing so you can start to tailgate. Game's at 8. So you got 7 hours to tailgate. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a good Friday night football, almost like college. Friday night lights are almost like high school, sorry. Friday night lights, so to speak. But it's on the bigger stage, especially with probably millions watching on Fox 1 Sports. That's going to be a pretty big deal for Old Dominion. This is kind of their first national recognition. Yeah, they play on the local channels here and there, but this is the first time that anybody that wants to can tune in and watch Old Dominion play. And it's at home, which makes it a really, really big deal for everybody. Going to be a whiteout, so be sure you wear white if you're going to the game. And they're going to do some card flip thing in one of the sections, like CUSA, we're ready or something, or ODU, we're ready, something like that. It's going to be pretty cool. But it's going to be a big, big, big event tomorrow. It's just the whole day there's going to be a buzz around campus. Everybody's going to be wearing their gear. It's just going to be a sight to behold. It's going to be something fun. So yeah, that's tomorrow. Like I said, Middle Tennessee State. It's going to be here, 8 o'clock. Over in the stadium, actually. Not going to be in here, obviously. And Old Dominion looks to pick up a win. They've only lost one so far. Middle Tennessee is doing all right this year. Not spectacular. Looking at their standings here. But it's going to be a big game for ODU if they want to win. Or if they come to play, they can win. Especially with the defense. Last time they played at home, they did really well. They didn't do great against Rice, as we talked about last episode. Didn't do great against Rice, giving up quite a few points. I believe it was 42, sorry. Won by 3, 45-42. But if the defense can do half as good as they did versus that game, and ODU's offense can stay high-powered coming off of that Rice, because Heineke was a little slow getting out of the gates, but now it looks like he got it. Middle Tennessee, 2-2. Old Dominion 3-1. It's gonna be a good one. CUSA, they're both 1-0 in the CUSA, so this kind of who jumps ahead. I think if ODU wins here, they have a chance. Again, they got to beat Marshall. Marshall's really the front runner here, but Old Dominion could definitely finish in second in the conference if they can win this game. And I mean, Middle Tennessee State hasn't played a whole lot of people. They beat Western Kentucky in 3 overtimes. They lost to Memphis, they lost to Minnesota, and then they beat Savannah State. Old Dominion's resume is looking a little better. I mean, they lost to NC State, their only loss on the season, but respectable, only 12 to an ACC team. First time being in the FBS. So that's a respectable loss. Hampton, they should have won by more, obviously, 41-28. They beat Eastern Michigan in that low-scoring battle I mentioned with the defense last home game at 17-3. And then Rice, the defense didn't show up, and the offense did 45-42. But I mean, Rice is a good team. Rice is, yes, they're 0-3. Oh, how can you say that? But they've lost to number 17 Notre Dame and number 7 Texas A&M, and then Old Dominion. Strength of schedule-wise, Rice still looks like they're a decent team because they played a couple of those close. They didn't get blown out too bad. I mean, 38-10, that's pretty bad, but you think about the 7th team in the nation, they played respectably for that. But back to Old Dominion, Middle Tennessee, Fox Sports 1. It's going down. Old Dominion on national television, on the national platform on Friday night, when a lot of football games aren't on. So that really gives them the whole audience to see who all is going to tune in, watch them, see how they do, and hopefully they come out with a win. Hopefully they come out with a win. They go 2-0 in Conference USA. Then I believe they have Marshall The week after that, maybe 2 weeks, they have Marshall. It might be away. Let me check here. No, they play Marshall at home. That's gonna be the big one for them. But Old Dominion needs to focus on this game versus Middle Tennessee, get to 2-0 in the Conference USA, 4-1 on the season, and then they can worry about Marshall. But I think if they play their type of ball, if they get the tempo they want, they get everything done. Old Dominion is going to come out of this with a pretty sizable win, I think. I don't think Middle Tennessee's that great. I think Old Dominion could win by 2 touchdowns, maybe 10 to 17 points, I see. I mean, somewhere in that range. I think Old Dominion is very, very capable of making that happen. And then some other games going on, of course. Florida State travels to NC State. Florida State does get Jameis Winston back. I'll talk a little more about him in a couple seconds. Tonight, there's number 11 UCLA traveling to a Pac-12 rival, Arizona State, who's 15th. That's going to be a good game. That's tonight, 10 o'clock, Fox 1 Sports. Same channel ODU is going to be on tomorrow. UCLA hasn't looked spectacular. So I don't know if you want to call it an upset. I mean, they beat Texas, but Texas didn't look great. Texas really, really does not look good this year. I mean, they've won one game versus North Texas. Then they lost to BYU and UCLA. UCLA only won by 3 on that one. They barely beat UVA. They beat them by 8. And then they beat Memphis by a touchdown. So they haven't looked spectacular. Where Arizona State, on the other hand, has really, I mean, Weber State they crushed 45-14. Then you got New Mexico. Again, a blowout, 58-23. Versus Colorado was a little closer, but it was at Colorado, 38-24. But still, all wins pretty much bigger than what their opponent UCLA is. And it's at home. I don't know if you can call it an upset, because I don't think it really is when you're two ranked teams, unless it's 25-1. I can't really call it an upset, but I think Arizona State wins this game. Touchdown, maybe a field goal, 4 points, 4 or 5 points. UCLA is actually, the line is they win by 3, so Vegas likes UCLA, but I like Arizona State. I just think Arizona State at home, they're going to get it done. Also, another ranked team playing tonight, Oklahoma State is playing Texas Tech. Oklahoma State's not great. Texas Tech isn't very good either. They're both in the same conference, first conference game for both of them. Texas Tech has beaten Central Arkansas and UTEP, and then lost to Arkansas. And then OSU, they've beaten Missouri State and UTSA, but they lost to Florida State only by 6, though. That's why they're still in the top 25. I don't think they should be. But if you have it's at 7:30, so it's on ESPN. So it's gonna be before, or watch ESPN, depends. It's gonna be before the UCLA Arizona State game. But there's football on tonight in the professional leagues. Professional. So I'd rather tune into the Redskins Giants than Oklahoma State Texas Tech. But split screen, make a recall, whatever you want to do with the UCLA Arizona State game, if the NFL game's still going on, because that one's going to be one to watch. And that might really determine the Pac-10, or the Pac-12, sorry. The Pac-12 is Oregon, and then it's kind of just up in the air. UCLA was looking good. USC, not so much anymore. Actually, USC's not looking great anymore. I don't even know if they're in the top 25 anymore, because they've not looked very good. So it's kind of just open for whoever can take it. So we'll see what they can do. We'll see who can win, who can come out of that with a win. And they might be able to take the Pac-12 if Oregon loses. I would say Oregon loses one they shouldn't. So if one of these teams can go undefeated throughout the season and beat Oregon, because that's really what it comes down to, I think the winner of this may be able to do that. Maybe. We'll see. But tonight, that's a big game. Also, my upset of the week, because I'm not really counting that as an upset, both ranked. Stanford travels to Washington. I really like Washington. If Tyler was here, he could tell you. I'm on Washington. I think they have a solid squad. They give up quite a few points, but they also put up quite a few. They average 41 points. They give up 25. I mean, their offense is very, very high powered. They're playing Stanford, number 16. Stanford's at 2-1. Washington's at 4-0. Washington's beaten Hawaii, uh, East Washington, Illinois, and Georgia State. So nobody big, but Washington also plays Oregon in 2 weeks as well. So they could be on the upset trail. Stanford's lost to USC, who was ranked at the time. They beat UC Davis and Army. They shut out Army and UC Davis, which they should, and gave up 10 to USC, which is pretty good, but they only scored 13. USC, I don't know if they have the best defense in the league, but to be able to hold the other two to 0, that's what really makes Stanford's defensive stats kind of almost skewed. Yeah, okay, they did give up 0, but to no-name teams, they only averaged 4.3. Now, if you take the team names they played, they gave up 10 to USC, which is pretty good. Pretty good offense, I'll give them that. But Washington gives up 25, so it looks like Stanford should win if you go off of defense. But it's at Washington. Washington's 4-0. I like the way they play. They have a good coach. The fans are there. There's something about them where I think this is the upset of the week. I think they have the opportunity to beat Stanford, take Stanford down, and maybe, if they can take this and roll with it, 2 weeks might be sitting in the same chair saying the same thing about Oregon. 2 weeks. Week 8, I believe. Week 8. It's going to be Oregon versus Washington. If Washington wins versus Stanford, be on the lookout for the chance of them beating Oregon. I may sit here. I'm telling you now, if they beat Stanford, I think they have a shot to beat Oregon. Back to Jameis Winston. I mentioned that. I said I'd get back to it. We'll go back to him. A lot of talk is, what should he do? Should he come out? Should he stay? Should he go? What should he do at the end of this year? I think it's pretty simple. Everybody's like, oh, he's ready to go to the NFL. Now, if he's smart, he'd stay. Because what he did, how he got suspended, he's not looking great for the draft stock. The draft stock for him is kind of lower. But also, he get drafted to a better team, kind of sit behind somebody for a year or two, probably a year. If he can do that, because again, we know his sort of attitude may not allow that. But if he can sit behind somebody, because you think about it, right now, he's the best quarterback. Mariota may go above him, but other than that, he's probably the best quarterback there is. But his attitude problems and everything that's going on with the NFL, you got to take attitude into effect. So he could go much lower than he should. This year, he's thrown 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in 2 games, which isn't great for him. 2 interceptions, but both those really came early in the season against Oklahoma State. But if he came out now, he'd go to a team like, I don't know, a team that has an older quarterback that needs somebody. A lot of people are saying, is Tom Brady declining? They had Mallett. I think they got rid of Mallett. Jameis Winston there, that'd be something, that'd be a little interesting. I don't think he's definitely not as good a quarterback as Tom Brady. Without a doubt, he's not even close. And they'd have to build around him, but I think with Belichick, he would straighten out. Also, think about teams he could go to that have an older quarterback. Maybe sitting behind Ben in Pittsburgh. Maybe even going to the Giants. Tyler, I don't know if he'd like that or not. But a team that's kind of middle of the pack, the Giants are a little worse than middle of the pack. But a team kind of middle of the pack would take him at this point. But it'd be smart for him to stay, play his junior year. If he plays his junior year, he's probably going to go top 1, top 2 if he can stay out of trouble. And then he's looking at he'd do good in Miami. Just stay down there, have the same fan base. Miami needs a quarterback, as we all see. The coach is kind of backing out on who his quarterback is. Oh, it's this guy. Oh, no, it's not. You can't really decide. I think Jameis Winston in Miami would be interesting. Jacksonville just got their quarterback, Bortles, who's finally starting. We said if Bortles started by week 3, then that's our prediction. He played week 3. He didn't really start, but we're still pretty confident with that, I think. But we'll see how Bortles does. But I think Jameis Winston at Miami, if he can wait another year. But I think he comes out. I really do. I think he's ready to get away from college. Unless something changes. But he's ready to get paid. He's ready to make his money. He's ready to be in the limelight. And he's nothing like Johnny Manziel. I don't like that comparison at all. He's a much better quarterback than Johnny Manziel. He's a much, much, much better quarterback than Johnny Manziel. Arm strength wise, he's still young. I mean, yes, the comparison is he won the Heisman in the freshman year, and so did Johnny Manziel. But I don't think Manziel has the qualities to be an NFL starting quarterback. I mean, he's not going to take Hoyer's job. Hoyer's playing better than Tom Brady, Drew Brees. I mean, Hoyer's playing amazing. And Jameis Winston, he's 6'4", so he's got the height. Johnny Manziel's 5'11". They marked him at 6'1", and they're lucky if he's 6 foot. I mean, so he's 6'4" over Johnny Manziel's 5'11". He's got the height over him. He's 230. He's a pretty big dude. I mean, he has a similar build to Big Ben. That's who I keep kind of comparing him to here. But I mean, he doesn't scramble as much as Johnny Manziel. He stays in the pocket more and passes a lot more, but he's big and he's mobile and can pass out of the pocket. He's a much, much better quarterback than Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was meant, and RG3 as well. Johnny Manziel and RG3 are meant for college systems. They're meant for kind of run and gun, sporadic, make something happen, broken down plays, or you break it down yourself. Johnny Manziel likes to do that. In college, he liked to just break down the play himself instead of, he'd read one guy and then break it down. He'd start running. So, and RG3 looks like the same way in the NFL. They try to make him a pocket quarterback, and he can't do that. And then it's like, oh, Cousins is better because Cousins is better for that system. But those two players are college style. I think Jameis Winston is in an offense where, yes, he can run the ball, but he can throw the ball. He can hand it off. I mean, he's the best quarterback, I think, coming out of this draft, if he came out of this draft. He wouldn't go first. I think Mariota would go above him. Mariota's having a really, really good season. But I think overall Winston is a better quarterback. But can you take the baggage with it? And something in the NFL right now is all the baggage people have. People aren't taking the baggage. People are saying they're having to suspend players. Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson. I mean, James Harrison, they just signed with the Steelers. Mike Tomlin had to come out and say, hey, we talked to him about it because in 2008 he had a domestic charge. So it's something you have to really look into, and it hurts his draft stock. If he wants to go higher, he'll wait another season, then he'll come out and he'll go probably first in the draft if he can stay low-key. If he can not do anything to make himself be on the national platform for the wrong reasons. But it'll take time. We'll see exactly what happens with him. But it really just comes down to if he can stay at college another year, he'll go higher. Just because he can kind of mellow out, become a little more mature. But he has the talent to go to the NFL. Switching sports, baseball. We all mentioned it. Jeter's final game is today. At final game at home. Apologize. His final game at home is today. I saw something. Keith Olbermann said that Jeter was kind of overhyped, which I didn't quite agree with. Jeter, yes, his stats aren't there as much as some of the great Yankees. He ranked like 13th behind a lot of people. In first in strikeouts, yeah, not the stat you want to lead in, obviously. But through the whole steroid era and everything going on in baseball, he was never mentioned in any of that. He's kind of kept his slate clean. He's never been mentioned in steroids. He's never been brought up on any charges like that. In a town that looks for that, in a town that just can eat you alive, the limelight can just destroy a career, and yet he's been able to flourish. And I think that's what's the most impressive about his career, that he's been able to do all this as a captain and stay out of tabloids in that sense. I mean, there's scandals of him having women over to his place and giving out gift baskets and stuff, but to stay out of the limelight of things as big as steroids was at the time and still is, that's pretty impressive for him to do. But he made a point that maybe Jeter should retire at the end of this game, just because retire at home, not at your rival. I know the Red Sox will do a nice gesture for him. I believe in the Red Sox. I think they did very good for Mo when he came there. But you gotta end your career at Yankee Stadium if you have the opportunity. That's after 20 years. I feel like that's what it should be. He should end there, and I like that point by Olbermann. But I can see why he wants to go to Boston. Boston's gonna pay him a ton of respect because he's done so much for the game of baseball. But I think he should end it in New York. He shouldn't go on that plane to Boston, or he should go on that plane to Boston, kind of come out and tip his hat. He doesn't have to play, but it's his call. Playoffs, Yankees missed, obviously, or we'd be talking about how Jeter's going to the playoffs and can they win it. Playoffs right around the corner, couple games left. I think got a week and a half left. A lot of teams clinched, a lot of things. The Pirates and Cardinals clinched the playoffs, but the Pirates are only a game and a half back from the NL Central, and St. Louis is right above them. So that they're clinched, but the wild card is still up in the air for that. The team that the wild card would be playing would be the Giants. The Giants clinched the wild card because the Dodgers last night clinched the NLC West, or the NL West. They're looking good. I feel good about my pick at the beginning of the season. Dodgers in 6. I mean, Angels clinched their division, obviously. It was not even close. Oakland's really good, but the Angels are a lot better, 11.5 ahead of them at 98 and 61. I mean, they're the best team in baseball right now. If their pitching can stay where it's at, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Oakland's right there clinching. They're not there yet. There's a few teams that can catch them. Seattle's 3 back, so technically they're still in the chase. Kansas City right now is 3 ahead of Seattle. It's Oakland and Kansas City if it ended right now. So I think those two are they're tied. Kind of just debating on who gets the home field advantage. And Pittsburgh and San Francisco right now would be the wild card in the National League. Depending on what happens in the NL Central with the Pirates and Cardinals. Right now would be at Pittsburgh. San Francisco and Pittsburgh would be an interesting one-game series, and the winner would play the Nats. I like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's my team. But I don't know if they can beat San Francisco. If San Francisco wins, I think San Francisco beats the Nats. But if Pittsburgh wins, I think the Nats can move on. I really do. Although McCutchen's really good, Alvarez. But Pittsburgh's pitching lineup is kind of like the Orioles. I've always said they build their lineup with 3 or 4 guys they expect to pitch. They don't have that one ace. I mean, they do. They have a guy that can come out here and there. But the majority of the time, they're not expecting their guy to go 9. They're expecting their guy to get a solid 6. Then their middle reliever come in for 7th and 8th, and then a closer come in for the 9th and close it out. Kind of rely on a 3-man staff to win the game. And that's something Pittsburgh does well, along with the O's, which I think are going to do pretty well. Detroit, best team on paper, but I don't think Detroit's going to beat the O's. They just haven't looked as good as they should with that team. Their pitching lineup is just ridiculous. I mean, you look at Scherzer, just amazing. They traded for a Price earlier in the season. But they don't seem to put it together. I mean, their batting average is made. They're first in batting average on base, second in runs, and second in slugging. But their ERA, with that lineup, their ERA is 22nd in the league, 11th in quality starts, 24th in whip, and 24 in batting average against. They don't crack the top 10, yet they have one of the best, on paper, lineups there is. Yes, the game's not played on paper, I understand. But with the just the pitchers they have, it's hard to believe that they don't win more games. I mean, Verlander, he's got to be hurt or he's done. I don't think he's done. He's only 31, but maybe he's done. Scherzer, he's been there. He's been doing pretty good. Price, he's been okay since he got there, but not great. But I mean, Java Chamberlain's just completely destroyed them at the closing position. Java has given up quite a few saves, or yeah, blown quite a few saves. He's got 2 saves throughout the entire season. 2. It's not good. They should be a lot better than they are. And that's why I think the O's will probably beat them. I mean, the O's obviously clinched. Detroit already clinched. The Angels obviously clinched. The Dodgers just clinched. The Nats and Cardinals had clinched the playoff spot. Cardinals are still up in the air. I mean, Washington just destroyed anybody near them. I think Washington beat the Braves by like 15 games or something. It wasn't 15 and a half games over the Mets and Braves. It's not even close. Washington was on another level. 92 and 65. They're right there at the best team in baseball. The Orioles are 95 and 63 though. I mean, the Battle of the Beltways may happen in the World Series. That'd be an interesting one if you're down here and you enjoy baseball. 2 Beltway teams playing. That'd be fun to watch. Going to the Dodgers, as I mentioned, they just clinched. Their pitcher Kershaw won again last night. He's 21 and 3 on 27 starts. A lot of talk. Should he win the MVP? Sorry. He's obviously going to win the Cy Young. I mean, the way he's been playing is phenomenal. There's no other way to put it. He's having a MVP Hall of Fame year. His ERA is 1.77. Like I mentioned, 21 and 3. He's got just under 240 strikeouts, and his WHIP is .86. I mean, obviously Cy Young. But the way he's been pitching, he deserves the MVP. A lot of people don't like the MVP and the pitcher getting an MVP. They feel like the MVP is kind of meant for position players. But if you're playing the way he is, you have to give it to him. He's the best player in baseball. The MVP is the most valuable player. When he's pitched, he's won 85% of his starts. Or 85% of the time when he's pitched, the Dodgers have won. When he hasn't pitched, they've won 56, I believe. 56% of the time. If he adds almost 30% to your winning percentage, he's got to be, without a doubt, the MVP of the NL. It's not even a question. I mean, when you're pitching, when you have 21 wins out of 27 starts, and you're pitching with an ERA sub 2, I mean, strikeouts at 239, just under 240, that's MVP, regardless of, unless somebody had a triple crown, there's not a whole lot that can beat that sort of performance throughout a career, or throughout the season. Unless a triple crown is going on, that whoever pitches with those stats should get the MVP, regardless if you're a pitcher or not. Yes, you can win the Cy Young, but you can also win an MVP, and that should be Kershaw. Kershaw should win both this year because he is just on another level of just pure dominance. So going to, we talked about the NFL a little bit. Just, I don't know if you heard, Bill Simmons was suspended for 3 weeks for calling Goodell a liar on his profane tirade on a podcast, according to ESPN, quote unquote. Called Goodell a liar. He said something along the lines of he had the video saying he didn't have it. Simmons' podcast released on Monday night. He called Goodell a liar about not knowing what was on the security video that showed former Ray Rice, running back, hitting his then fiance in Atlanta City elevator. So he pretty much said what everybody in everybody watching the NFL and everybody following the story is saying. He's saying Goodell's a liar. He's saying Goodell had that video. Goodell knew what was going on, yet he decided to give 2 games. That's what Simmons said. He called him a liar, which he is. Goodell, obviously, we both sat on the show, Tyler and I, have sat on the show and said Goodell had the video. He's lying through his teeth. And then he came out and did a press conference and said, absolutely, he said something, but it made no sense. I mean, he no sort of weight at all to what he said. He should have done something like the Ravens owner did. But Goodell hasn't cleared the air. He thinks he has, but he's not cleared the air for people thinking that he had that video or he's a liar, in the words of Bill Simmons. So to be suspended 3 weeks due to the fact that you said what everybody else is thinking, don't think that's right. That's not something. It's not like Stephen A. Smith did when he said that sometimes you're provoked to have physical spousal abuse, which was way out of line, obviously, and ESPN stepped in. But to call Goodell a liar, he's in line with that one. He's telling the truth on that one, because I think we all kind of agree with Simmons on this. At least everybody I've talked to. Goodell does not look like he's in a good situation. And yet October's coming around, he's still there, and yet they're going to wear pink to support breast cancer for women. That seems a little ridiculous there, Goodell. But Simmons also tried to argue the fact that he can say that, he's allowed to say that. He thinks what he said. He thinks it, and usually Simmons says it. Usually Simmons says what's on his mind. I'm trying to find exactly what he said here, but it's to be suspended for 3 weeks off of that is something that is a little ridiculous. And Simmons tried to challenge ESPN's management about calling him a liar on the podcast, but obviously they didn't want to hear anything about it. So we'll see what happens to Simmons too. I mean, he's kind of rebelling against ESPN, which is a little difficult, but we'll see how that goes. But to come out and say that what 90% of the nation thinks and then be scorned for it is a tad bit ridiculous. The ESPN. But now the actual football. Injury news. Megatron sat up for the 2nd practice in a row. So if you have him on your fantasy, you're probably a little worried. If you're a Lions fan, you're probably a little worried. Ankle injury he suffered versus the Packers. Kind of a high ankle injury, they said. At this point, his status is kind of uncertain versus the Jets on Sunday. We'll see what happens there. It is Thursday, so he's still got Friday. If he practices Friday, he'll be okay. But he hasn't looked like himself recently. I know some of that is the quarterback throwing to him, obviously. I mean, Stafford hasn't been exactly what everybody expected him to be. But, I mean, the first game, 164 reception yards, 2 touchdowns. He hasn't scored a touchdown since. And he's got 83 and 82 yards in the past 2 games. At Carolina's got a good defense. I'll give you that. Although Pittsburgh torched their defense, I'll give you the fact that Carolina's defense is pretty good. But then Green Bay, you only put up 19 against Green Bay as the Detroit Lions, and Calvin Johnson doesn't get a touchdown? Something's a little fishy about that. I mean, the Lions are supposed to be this high-powered offense that's going to carry them to the promised land. And now with their middle linebacker getting hurt, it's not looking too good for the Lions. I think the Bears, they're 2-1, the Lions are. The Packers aren't looking great this year, though, at 1-2. The Vikings, obviously, are in turmoil, although they got Teddy Bridgewater starting. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I hope he does well. But they're in some turmoil. The Bears was my choice to win that division, and I'm feeling confident about it because the way the Lions are playing, it's not looking good. I think when they play a tougher team, yes, the Packers are tough, but the Packers, they should be 0-3. If you really look at it, they should have lost to the Jets. But Detroit plays at the Jets, and I mean the Jets haven't been playing. The Jets have been playing well, but not good enough to win. I mean they lost by they lost by 7 to Green Bay, so a touchdown. And they lost by 8 to Chicago, almost came back in the end. And they gave up to Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay should have lost that game easily. And they beat Oakland. They've been playing them close. And if Detroit doesn't have Megatron, they're going to struggle just because he spreads the field wide open, regardless of if he touches the ball or not. He just spreads the field. And that helps Reggie Bush. That helps Golden Tate. That helps anybody in the offense. That helps Stafford get to different people. It's just, I mean, Stafford only got 3 passing touchdowns and under 1,000 yards. And I mean, his interception ratio is still bad. He's still got 3 interceptions. That's been his knock. That's been my knock on him, at least, for his entire career. I think he's been very, very bad at throwing interceptions. I mean, career interceptions, he's looking at 76. He's thrown 76 interceptions over his career and 112 touchdowns. He's got to not turn the ball over as much and get the ball in the end zone more. I mean, when you have Megatron, you imagine just a top 10, top 15 quarterback, even somebody like top 10 probably, because a lot of people probably have Foles in top 10. They're going to get Megatron the ball, and he's going to score a touchdown a game. I mean, you get a better quarterback than I don't think Stafford's a good quarterback. That'd be an interesting team for Jameis Winston. I would love to see him go there. Because Stafford's not going to lead you to the promised land. He's just not. Winston may also go to the Rams. The Rams need a new quarterback. You can't go with Stafford, or you can't go with Bradford anymore. Bradford's just, he keeps getting injured. But Stafford just keeps turning the ball over. You got to get a new quarterback. Stafford's done. If they don't win a Super Bowl this year, Stafford's done. Fantasy football wise, see what we got. We got Barry's love-hate, obviously. You got Phillip Rivers. Rivers has been doing really, really well with his offense. I mean, Rivers, he's always been a pretty good fantasy quarterback. I've always liked him. He's had I wouldn't put him as my franchise quarterback, obviously, but fantasy is a lot different. He's going up against Jacksonville. That's pretty nice. I mean, he put up 24 fantasy points in a standard ESPN league against Seattle. So I'd be pretty confident starting him versus Jacksonville. Kirk Cousins, obviously. I think Cousins, the Giants' defense, their secondary is bad. Tyler likes to say their front line is pretty good, but we'll see tonight. I'm not quite sold on them yet. But Cousins, he's great. He's a great fit in that offense, and that's why his fantasy numbers are sky high. I mean, he got 18 versus Jacksonville in a half a game, and then he put up 27 in Philadelphia. I'd say look out for him. And I mean, Big Ben's going to be doing pretty good. I mean, he hasn't been great in the fantasy department. He's at 15, 16, and 6. But he's playing Tampa Bay, who just gave up 56 points to the Falcons. So I can see Big Ben doing well. And he actually has the best completion rate in the league, 92.9%. That's ridiculous. Out of 10 passes, he's completing 9 of them. That's pretty good, especially when he likes to throw the ball deep. He hasn't been doing it as much because Todd Haley doesn't like that. But him and Antonio Brown are hooking up. And I think, I really do think you gotta give Heath Miller some love, fantasy-wise. You need a tight end for a week, say yours is on a bye. Heath Miller may have a good day. I feel Heath Miller has the chance to have a pretty good day. Also, rookie-wise, Teddy Bridgewater, he may do all right for you. He's playing Atlanta. Atlanta's defense isn't as good as they looked against the Bucks, obviously, or they'd be the best defense in the league. But he is a rookie. And then Bortles, I think Bortles is going to do pretty well at San Diego. San Diego's defense isn't the best thing in the world. They really rely on their offense. So I'd start Bortles over Bridgewater if you have the opportunity. But if you have a few more choices other than them, like Rivers, Cousins, Roethlisberger is actually not owned in a lot of leagues either. I mean, if you got a shallow league, like a one quarterback league, he's owned in 82%. So that means there's quite a few teams out there. 18% of leagues he's not owned. So check him out. Quarterback wise, shouldn't start. Tom Brady, obviously. Say, oh, obviously, how can you say that? He's broken 10 points once. He's playing at Kansas City, who, yeah, their defense hasn't been great this year, but neither is Tom Brady. Just, he hasn't been doing great. Last time he went to Arrowhead, he threw 4 interceptions. But he's going to do better than that, obviously. But I would not, if you had a backup to Tom Brady, I would probably go ahead and play them. Running back wise, Lamar Miller, running back for the Dolphins. Sean Marino had the first game really, really good. But Miller is kind of the running back now. He's the first one, and he's facing Oakland, who's awful. We all know that. So Lamar Miller, obviously an easy start there. If you need one, go ahead and get Donald Brown, running back for San Diego. He's owned in now 95% of leagues. That's up 7%. But with the injuries to Ryan Matthew, Danny Woodhead, he's the next one there. Go ahead and look at him, see if he's available. Doug Martin will be back. So if you have Doug Martin, maybe throw him in the lineup depending on who you got. I'm not quite sold on him yet. But he was a top 5 running back a couple of years ago. So we'll see where he can come out there. Wide receiver wise, I mean, the obvious, Edelman playing versus Kansas City. Yes, Brady isn't going to do have a great fantasy day, but Edelman's the number 1 target. He's obviously going to get a lot of touches. Maclin, after what he just did against the Redskins, I don't see why you wouldn't like what he can do. San Francisco's defense isn't what it was last year. Antonio Brown, obviously, he's going to do spectacular because he's playing a horrible team, and he did really good last week against the Panthers, who are supposed to have a great defense. Brandon Cooks as well. Brandon Cooks is kind of the guy who, if it's not going to Jimmy Graham, it's kind of moving to Cooks. Marquise Colston's kind of fading out. He's getting a little older. Colston finally got in the end zone. First touchdown for him this year, 3rd week of the season. Where Cooks, I believe, had a touchdown first week of the season and then hasn't had one since. But New Orleans isn't playing a tough... I mean, Dallas is giving up... They gave up 31 points to the Rams. I mean, it's hard to name a Rams wide receiver, much less know who's throwing the ball, and person gets hurt every other day for them. So Cooks is probably going to have a good day, and so is Drew Brees, obviously. If you have him, he hasn't been doing great, but if you have him, go ahead and start him. So that's what I got for you in fantasy-wise. Look at some of the games this upcoming week. It's going to be, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. First week of buys. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Denver, St. Louis, Arizona, Seattle. So a lot of people, your teams are kind of looking depleted this year, or this week. AJ Green's not there. You don't have Hoyer. You don't have Manning. You don't have running back for the St. Louis, Zach Stacy. You don't have anybody for Seattle defense. Wilson, Arizona's defense, they're not available. So it's gonna be a long week for the players who have like Demaryius Thomas, all of them. It's gonna be a long week for you guys. But tonight, Giants at the Skins. It's gonna be a good one. I think the winner of this comes in second. I think the Eagles obviously take that, but I think the winner of this comes in second. I don't think the Cowboys are as serious as people think. They win close ones to teams they really shouldn't win close ones versus. I mean, they should have beat the Rams by a lot, and then they should have lost the Rams, but somehow they came back. Winner of this comes in second. And I think Washington wins. I think Washington with Cousins is a better team than with RG3, but I think Washington is a better team than the Giants. Plus, it's at home. I got to give the edge to Washington. And I think Cousins is going to have a remarkable day. I think Cousins probably throws for 350 yards. But I think the Giants do the same thing. I think the Giants, Eli Manning probably throws an interception, but I think he probably throws 350 yards. Victor Cruz has a good day. They found a running attack in Jennings. That kind of came out of nowhere, but I think that they're going to find their running attack is going to do well versus the Redskins because the defense for the Redskins isn't that great. Chicago and Green Bay. It's going to be a good one, obviously. Two division rivals at Chicago. Green Bay's been looking bad, though. Green Bay's been looking really bad. Chicago, they're a little worried. Brandon Marshall came out of the game last week. We'll see if he plays on Sunday. But as of right now, I would assume so. But Chicago wins that one just because Jay Cutler is having a much better season than Aaron Rodgers. And they got to find a running game at some point. And same with the Packers. I mean, Lacy's been just doing awful. Lacy, if you have Lacy on your fantasy team, some guy just traded him to me. I mean, it's like, I feel like I got a good trade out of that, but averaging 3.1 rushing yards. And, I mean, he's been just having a miserable season. We'll see what he can do. And same with Forte. Forte's just averaging 0.1 yards more per carry. It's not been a good year for them running the ball on both sides of that, Packers or Bears. Another good game. There's a lot of duds here. I mean, Tennessee and Indianapolis. I think Andrew Luck's going to continue his reign on the NFL as best quarterback, like I said he would. I mean, right now, if you look at position rank, he's the number one quarterback in the league. He just torched Jacksonville, and I think even though Tennessee has the second best passing defense in the league. I don't know if you guys knew that, but they're looking really good on the passing defense. But I think that Luck just torches him. I mean, they played Cincinnati. I'm not big on Cincinnati's defense or quarterback. They played Dallas. Again, Dallas's quarterback. Those two quarterbacks are not as good as Luck. They haven't faced a quarterback as good as Luck yet. So I see Luck torching their defense. Probably putting up 3 touchdowns, 250 yards. Carolina and Baltimore. Carolina's probably going to win that one. Baltimore's got a lot going on with it. I said that earlier in the year, and Baltimore won, but I think Carolina's a better team. Cam Newton's not going to have a great game, but the defense is going to win this one for him. Just breeze over that one. I mean, Detroit should win that, but the Jets will play them really, 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 really close. I mean, much closer than it should be. 3 points, probably. Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. Hopefully Tampa Bay fans, don't get smacked again like they did on the national stage Thursday Night Football. That was just a straight awful game for them. I can't imagine they lose like that again, but I can't imagine they play Pittsburgh much closer. I mean, they'll play closer, but not like a one-possession game. I don't see that happening. Miami at Oakland. Miami's the better team, but Miami hasn't been playing well. This week is just some games that it doesn't look like there's that big one to watch. Jacksonville at San Diego. San Diego should beat them pretty soundly. Minnesota and Atlanta. I'd assume Atlanta would win that one by a large margin after beating Tampa Bay like that. Minnesota's about the same level as Tampa Bay, whether you liked it or not. Philadelphia at San Francisco is going to be the good one. San Francisco, they should be worried. If you're a San Francisco fan, you're probably a little worried. They haven't looked good yet, and I don't think that Kaepernick is a great quarterback. They should have kept Alex Smith, I think, personally. Kaepernick's not a great quarterback. I'm not sold on him. The running game's not there. Gore got the ball like 5 times last game. Their defense isn't what it's been doing. And now in their division, they have Arizona, who's undefeated. They have Seattle, who's only lost 1. And they're 1-2. They're not in barely 1-2. Yeah, I mean they won by 11 versus Dallas, who they looked like they were dominating in the first half, and then they just took the foot off the pedal. And they're playing Philadelphia, a high-powered offense. Even though it's at San Francisco, I think Philadelphia beats them by 2+ touchdowns. I'm not on San Francisco. I don't like the way San Francisco plays. And I think for that reason, they're not going to do very well this year. And they're going to continue to lose versus Philadelphia. The night game is New Orleans at Dallas. Surprisingly, I think Dallas wins. New Orleans is another team that it doesn't look like they've pieced it together. They just look kind of lost. Atlanta, they lost in overtime. Then they lost to Cleveland. Yeah, there's been close, those two, losing by a combined total of 7, 6, something like that. But they beat Minnesota 20-9. But Minnesota has nobody. They had to throw in a rookie quarterback who was kind of forced in there because of the way the injuries happened. But I think Dallas can win this one. I don't like Dallas either. I do not think Dallas is a spectacular team that's outstanding. I don't think that at all. But I don't know if New Orleans is any better. Dallas just came back from St. Louis. I think that's going to give them some kind of momentum to come into this. And we'll see. But don't be surprised if Dallas wins that one with Romo throwing the ball deep. Murray's the second best running back in the league. I mean, he's just going off. I can't imagine many running backs doing much better than him this year if they keep feeding him the ball and he stays healthy. And New Orleans' defense isn't any good, so I wouldn't be surprised if Murray put up 150 yards rushing and Romo put up 250 passing, and it'll be a shootout. 28-21, 35-28, something like that. It's going to be a much higher scoring game than the usual suspects, 21-17, stuff like that. Monday night shouldn't be as close as it probably will be. I've said that with a lot of them. But New England and Kansas City, New England's won. They're 2-1, obviously. But they haven't had that dominating feel to them that we all thought they would have at the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, they're going to do really, really, really good. I mean, they have the chance to go undefeated, and then they come out and lose to Miami. They come out and beat Minnesota 30-17. That seems like a trend, beating Minnesota. And then they beat Oakland barely. I mean, they scored 1 touchdown. Brady's only thrown 3 touchdowns, but they threw 1 touchdown in that game versus Oakland at home. Kansas City isn't much better, but neither is New England. I mean, Kansas City's won 1 game. They lost to Denver, a good team. They lost to Tennessee, not a great team. Then they beat Miami. So that'll be a good one to watch, I believe. I think that'll be a fun one to watch on Monday night, and we'll see who comes out of the win there. But that's about all I got. So until next time, go follow us on Twitter at Cupcheck_radio or Instagram at the same thing, Cupcheck_radio. Go like our Facebook page at Cupcheck Radio. Check out the YouTube channel. I believe it's Cupcheck Radio. And that's where all of our saves are at. Thanks for tuning in. See you Tuesday. I think Tyler will probably be back. We'll see. But until then, enjoy the sports.